I'm here talking to Joe Lovano.
Wow, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
So, looking at your bio over the years, you've recorded at least 30 albums as a leader since 1985. You've appeared on countless other records, including with Paul Motion, Steve Coon, John Scofield, Lonnie Smith, McCoy Tyner. I mean, I would be here all day saying, which are the groups and people that you've played with. You tour and you also teach. You have to be one of the busiest musicians that I know. And how do you manage to find the time?
Well, I think, one thing leads to another. And I moved to New York in the mid 70s and really integrated myself into the scene here and in all the different possibilities in the multi-generational world of jazz and a multicultural world that we live in. And it's been a beautiful journey, to develop, uh, to actually create some bands and situations as a leader, but also to collaborate with folks and to be a part of some really celebrated bands, you know, from Lonnie Smith, you mentioned, and brother Jack McDuff, and then joined the Woody Herman Band in 1976. That's when I really did my first international touring and came to the UK for the first time and played at Ronnie Scott's
Mm.
with Woody, and
Yeah.
yeah, so one thing leads to another, and I've had a lot of passion to explore music with some folks, and
Yeah.
put myself in a lot of situations that bear a lot of fruits, let's say.
Yeah. Well, you've now released your second album on ECM. It's called Garden of Expression, and it's with your trio Tapestry. And I was very much struck by something that your pianist Marilyn Crispell said, that she said it's very much an equal trio, and with you and also with Carmen Castaldi. And actually, one does get a real sense of feeling of that equality on this recording. But is that something that has always been a part of you with musicians? That's something you've always wanted to do? Or was that something that you are only able to do once you get to know the musicians and how they work with your music and soundscapes of the music that you write?
You know, from earlier on, for me, it's always been about trying to share the space and to really be a part of the rhythm section, not just to just play over the rhythm section. That way of playing leads some beautiful places where you really create music from within the music.
Mm.
And I think my time playing with Bill Frisell and Paul Motion from 1981 until Paul's passing in 2011, uh, 2011, man, that was 30 years that Bill and I played with Paul in that kind of intimate
Mm.
um, concepts and approach, with no bass, also guitar,
Yes.
saxophone, and drums. And that put me in a position of not only being the lead voice, let's say, when you're playing jazz and in a music, but to be a part of the tapestry and the organicness of the melody, the rhythm, the harmony, and try to play as a saxophonist within the ensemble, with different ideas, different
Mm.
approach, you know. So that really gave me the confidence to have this trio with Marilyn and Carmen, and also with no bass to be in that spot,
Mm.
where I'm the lead voice. I'm the preacher sometimes, but I'm also like within the melodic structure of what can happen between Marilyn and myself and Carmen's melody on drums. Carmen is a kind of drummer also who doesn't just play the drums. He's playing like the music, and also with no bass, there's nothing like driving the momentum in the music except the way we play together.
Mm.
The momentum's created by the melodic flow and the harmonic rhythm of how you flow through the different songs and the different tunes. So I was also trying to compose in a way that had those elements in it, that
Mm.
we could play in a free flowing manner, but yet be still inside a song form
Yeah.
somehow, you know.
Yeah. And it is it's a very melodic album. I mean, it's very sort of I would almost say classical music in a way. It just has that beautiful quality,
Mm, mm.
that environment. I don't
Well,
know.
we do play as an orchestra together, and melodically and within the harmonic sequences, we're trying to find each other, explore the different written melodies that are there,
Mm,
but to express them not the way they look, but what they could be, and what they could become, just in the melodies parts of it, and then the way the harmony works. Some of my compositions I put together like with no bar lines, just phrases.
mm,
So Marilyn and I are shaping the within our timing the flow of the
mm,
harmony, and that gives Carmen a lot of freedom to color and play along with me, or play along with Marilyn, or establish his own tempo within what we're doing, and
yeah.
that's kind of why I call the group the Trio Tapestry also,
Mm.
because it's about a concept about how to try to play together,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that
Uh,
gives way to a lot of ideas,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I read that you're a fan of Schoenberg.
I listen to a lot of different classical, Messiaen and Schoenberg and Avamberg. I mean, like
Yes.
one of the first operas. My wife Judy Silvano is an amazing musician and
Right.
artist. And, she was in the modern dance world also in New York when we first got together.
Mm.
In the early '80s. And one of the first opera she took me to at the Met was Lulu,
Oh,
which was
wow.
amazing. Yeah, that was like, I'm like a total jazz person, and that opened up a lot of doors and
Mm,
ideas, you know,
mm,
about that. And then studying and working with Gunther Schuller through the years also.
right. Right.
And first meeting him in the early '70s when he was the head of New England Conservatory. And I went to Berkeley College of Music from high school in '71. I met Ed Schuler, which was Gunther's son, played
Mhm.
beautiful bass, and played with Eddie at New England. And that's when I first met Gunther, and then through the years, his whole third stream, ideas and concepts, and the 12 tone concepts have been something I've been developing through the years also. And
Mm,
it's really coming through in a way more these days in my compositions, um, for Trio Tapestry,
mm,
and that study of 12 tone ideas, In 2019, throughout the year with the trio and with a couple other different ensembles, with Enrico Rava,
mm.
our quintet that we have an ECM recording out also
Yeah.
live in Rome, called Roma, and also with Diana Krall
Oh, wow.
for the summer 2019 and the fall. I played maybe 40 concerts or so as a guest with her trio, with Bob Hurst on bass and Kareem Riggins on drum, and myself and Diana. And John Clayton also did some dates with us in the fall. And man, every night was just a swinging affair. Uh, so like I wrote a bunch of tunes on the road preparing for this session for of Expression, which we did in Lugano in November of 2019. So throughout the year, touring, playing with Trio Tapestry from our first release to this second recording session, I was composing a lot of tunes. And Chapel Song came together on the tour in the summer with playing with Diana and sitting in little
Mhm.
cathedrals in different towns we went to,
Mhm.
and a small chapel in Vienna where I was in there alone. It was really silent, and then there was some faint organ music playing, and I retained a certain feeling from that. And when I went back to the hotel, I remember writing that title down, Chapel Song, and
Mhm.
hearing something that turned into that piece.
Yeah.
So a lot of the tunes on the recording, um, West of the Moon also was, we were playing East of the Sun every night
Yeah.
with Diana, like
Yeah.
really in a swinging way, right? And it's a great tune. I remember having it on a Sonny Stitt record when I was growing up and learning East of the Sun. Anyway, one night after the gig, we had such a hip set. I went back to the hotel and I wrote down that title, West of the Moon. And then over the next couple weeks, that piece of music came. But that was one of the a tune that I had a title for first.
Yeah.
And Dream on That also was, you could play each one of these tunes in a different feeling, you
Mhm.
know. Uh, that tune, the title came from a moment a few years ago. I with my band Sound Prince with
Mhm.
Dave Douglas.
Yeah.
We were playing and some touring with Wayne Shorter's quartet. And our band Sound Prince is inspired by Wayne,
Mhm.
footprints. And I wrote this tune, Sound Prince, that this imaginary feeling of sound in the air.
Yeah.
So there was one night in a dressing room, and I got this new horn, a G mezzo soprano, and I went to Wayne's dressing room and I wanted to show him this horn. So I went, I took took this instrument in there, and it's like a soprano, but it's a little longer than a soprano. It's in the key of G, so it's between an alto and a soprano, right?
Mhm.
I played it for him. He picked up his soprano, and we played a short duet together, just improvised and harmonized on some notes. And we ended the piece. We hit this one harmony, and he looked at me. He goes, "I'm going to dream on that." So that
And that's
that
how.
always stayed with me. It stayed with me. And then I wrote that tune, and it has a flavor and a certain feeling about it that I decided to call it Dream on That. And that was really inspired by Wayne, him and his music and
Yeah.
the inspiration behind that. And that's
Yeah.
that one tune on is more of a like you could play that as a real swinging kind of a
Mhm.
piece also.
Yeah.
That and in the session for this date in Lugano, we played the night before in the same space. Right, this is a beautiful it's a recital hall, but they use as the radio in Switzerland. Right, Swiss
Mhm.
radio does a lot of recordings there and concerts. I
Mhm.
had played in that same space with John Scofield and with my different groups, a couple different groups, and I might have played there once with Hank Jones and Paul Motion and Bill. So I was familiar with that recital hall. Beautiful
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
The night before our recording session, we played a concert, full, fully packed room,
Mhm.
and we played these same compositions, but we played in a 90-minute set, right? So we stretched out. We got into each piece and really explored each piece like a certain way because we were on a tour.
Mhm.
Next morning, we came in to that same room with no audience and reconfigured our setup on stage. But we're familiar with the sound in the room. with no PA or anything,
Mm,
just
mm,
the sound of the trio. And Manfred's concept and idea is to make an LP's length recording.
hmm,
Okay.
okay.
So that means, he wants 40 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes at the most recorded music. So we tightened everything up and we played each piece in a, almost in a suite form. I mean, we didn't, we played takes of different tunes,
Hmm.
but pretty much they were all first takes on Guard, And the thing was, we sustained the same mood throughout the whole recording because of that. And I was really happy the way it came out. But the night before, those same compositions were played with a whole different attitude and
Yeah,
energy, you know?
yeah.
And, that's the whole joy of having a band like that and composing for it and for the
Mm.
people. Each night is a different flow.
So, Joe, you mentioned Manfred, and of course, you're talking about the world-renowned Manfred Eicher, who was your producer on this album. What is it like working with him? Because he's got quite a story in the way that he does it. He almost reminded me of a conductor when I was watching the little snippet of the film with
Mm.
his hands and his gestures, and he looks fascinating. So, tell how was it to work with him?
Well, to have Manfred's embrace through the years has been fantastic, man, because like you're saying, he feels the music and he has that, like you said something about he's conducting, but he's conducting music that he's hearing for the first time. He's not conducting from a knowing the music, like he's feeling what you're playing, and
Yeah.
so that's fun, and it makes you realize like that he's really listening, he's
Mm,
feeling and listening, and he's hearing what he's listening to, you know uh, he's a master at post production and putting things together, like sequencing things. And the one thing about this date was that we recorded, and then I was going to come back to Europe in March and April. I actually had a tour with Enrico Rava that was the beginning of the pandemic. So
mm,
that just went away, was canceled, the tour, and also the mixing session that I was going to do with Manfred at the same studio we recorded.
mm.
So that went away, and he wasn't able to mix and master until in the fall, and I couldn't be there, right? So he put all that together, the sequencing and getting the sound. But we had the sound from the gig because it was the recital hall
Mm.
sound that he kind of goes for, in his whole career. The big difference I feel from recording for Blue Note Records, which I did about 25 dates on from 1991 or so,
Mm.
Blue Note was a real nightclub sound, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And Manfred goes for more of a recital hall, concert hall sound,
Mm.
and he can get that out of a studio recording.
Well, you talk about evolving, and you mentioned that you'd done the majority of your career has been on the Blue Note label, but the last two ones have been on ECM. Was it a bit of a wrench to leave the Blue Note label, or was it for you a natural progression, or a movement to go on to to sign with ECM?
Well, you know what? I was real surprised to be on Blue Note for so long. I mean, I had three consecutive 7 record deals
Wow.
from 1991 or so. And I was working with Bruce Lundvall, and he just kept like giving me a green light with all these different ideas of these ensembles I was putting together. And man, it just kept rolling right along. And he gave me a green light to create. I never repeated like one record. They were all different, but I repeated some ensembles within that. But
Mm,
the music within the ensembles was developing and growing. Like my Nanette, for example, I had three Nanette recordings,
mm-hmm,
and won a Grammy with the first one, 52nd Street Themes, and then Live at the Village Vanguard, On This Day, and then Streams of Expression, which had a Gunther Schuller uh, orchestration that Gunther wrote for me of the Birth of the Cool suite.
mm, yeah.
Gunther played on the original Birth of the Cool, you
Wow.
know,
Mm-hmm,
and played French horn, and he conducted Moon Dreams with Miles and everything. And I had a commission from Monterey Jazz Festival to do something on Miles, right? This one year. And I could have done anything, but I called Gunther and had him put something together. I gave him the commission, and so he put something together for me that was really special. Uh, of course, the original Birth of the Cool, Miles was the lead.
mm-hmm,
There was no tenor on that record. It was Lee Konitz and Jerry Mulligan, alto and baritone,
right.
Miles. Where in my Nanette, the tenor was the lead. So Gunther reorchestrated everything and put me at the lead, and he made a real personal suite of Moon Dreams, Move, and Boplicity,
Yeah.
right? Nanette, and that was on Streams of Expression, and that was a big date, man, for me to be able to be in the studio with Gunther and
Mm-hmm,
put like a larger group than my Nanette, which was the core, but with added woodwinds and things.
mm, mm,
That's one example. My band Us Five,
yeah.
with
So,
Esperanza Spalding and
Pauling, yeah.
the double drummers. I did
Mm,
three records with that quintet. You
mm,
know,
mm,
folk art and bird songs where we played Charlie Parker,
yeah.
uh, and cross culture. So working with Blue Note was amazing, and having Bruce's embrace and giving me a green light, it just kind of kept carrying on
Mm,
until my last release, which was live at Newport
right.
with Hank Jones, George Mraz, and Louis Nash. It was something I had in the can. We recorded in 2006, but came out in 2015, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was my last recording uh, on my contract, and Bruce had turned the reins over to Don Was at that moment, and I worked with Don maybe on three different releases.
Yeah.
But then once my contract was over, I thought it was a good moment to like have a little space, and I had a great relationship with Manfred through the years because
Mm-hmm,
Bruce was also so hip, man. He could have stopped me from recording as a sideman with other people, but he saw I was playing on the scene. I'm playing with Paul and Motion and Bill Frisell. He's hearing me in all these ensemble, all these different groups. Then I'm presenting from my Blue Note,
mm-hmm.
right? Period. So Bruce always like he let me play on other sessions other than my leader dates.
Yeah.
And so I had through all those years with Blue Note, I was recording for Manfred also, but not as a leader,
Right.
within as a guest and within some groups, you
Mm,
know. So it was a natural progression actually to go with Manfred and ECM.
yeah.
Uh, but it was a magical thing that happened, it just kind of happened real organic.
Yeah. You seem to me to have an insatiable desire to keep moving forward. It is impossible to pigeonhole you, as we've just heard, and with all the different artists you've worked with and the styles of music that you work in. Is there anyone new at the moment that is piquing your curiosity, and perhaps some new projects are in the pipeline?
Well, I love to play, and I love to play with folks that create music within the music, and it's just been it, it's been something that's just been happening for me my whole life and my career, so uh, I feel really blessed, and we are all blessed to live in the world of music the way we do.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
Playing at
Well,
Ronnie's with Elvin, 1987, I toured with Elvin Jones for 9 weeks. And we did my first 2 weeks with Elvin on the road was at Ronnie Scott's.
wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Let's just hope that the world opens up very, very soon and we can get you over here to our shores again, back at Ronnie's or Cadogan Hall or wherever. Fingers crossed with your trio tapestry. Joe, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I
Um,
really appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you in person one of these days.
yeah, definitely. And thanks for like be able to reflect on some of these things. It was really special. So thank you. And yeah, bless everybody. And when we can gather, we will.
Amen to that.